Well, hi, Amy. I am super excited to have you today on the Seeking Sunshine podcast. How are you?
I'm so good. It's always so great to be in your presence and energy. You light up the room,
Well,
my room,
thank
literally.
you.
Yeah, you're
Well, I
welcome.
just love you, and I'm so excited to talk to you today about everything passion and creativity and motherhood. I know that you do so many amazing things.
Yeah, well, this is going to be a juicy conversation. I can feel it already.
And it really is. So tell me, what is it that you just love to do? What is your passion?
I was thinking about this morning. I was like, how do I narrow it down to just one? But really, it comes from inspiration. I think inspiration is the guidepost for everything that I do that brings me so much joy. I've I've just loved feeling inspired and then following that inspiration and acting on it. So whether that's writing or painting or even doing this, like podcasting, having high vibe conversations, when I feel that inspiration move inside of me, inspiration is from spirit. So that is like the ignition of our soul, so to speak.
Yes. So let's start from, I don't know, some of the beginning of your journey. Like, what does it look like as you're a mom, right? How has your journey looked as you've tried to do the things that you love to do and also been a mom? Because it's not an easy journey to try to make things into paint and to be a podcaster and to do all those things you love. Although I know podcasting has been recently, but it's hard to do things, right? When you're also a mom, it's hard to combine those two, passions. They seem conflicting at times. So how has that looked? What has that journey been like for you?
That's such a great question. And I appreciate you asking that. I feel I was really blessed. I was in a marriage that was actually falling apart. Um, and I came across something called conscious based energy medicine. It's called Body Talk. And I never had heard of it before in my life. It was like a really quick, maybe 5 minute conversation with somebody that I knew. And she was kind of telling me her experience with this. And at the time, my son wasn't even quite a year old. I was an exhausted mother. I had postpartum depression. I couldn't return to the job that I had as a personal trainer because physically I just wasn't well. And I had a lot of things going on. And something about what she said to me in this conversation was enough for me to Google Body Talk and look it up. And from reading about it, I just knew that I had to learn about it. I'd never experienced a session in my life. And so I found out that it was coming to where I live in Regina, Canada. I think it was not even 2 months later to take the first course. So never having a session, I decided to just do it. I signed up for it. And at the time, I was kind of telling myself I was looking for a backup plan because physically I wasn't able to be a personal trainer anymore. And in the course of that 4 days, so many of my physical ailments just were healed. That's the only
Mm,
way I can explain it. And what happened in the course of that 4 days was the beginning of what I call my spiritual journey or my inward journey, that personal development. It showed me that everything's connected, like my mind, my emotions, my body, my spirit, all my beliefs. And it really was the beginning of transforming my life from the inside out. And so I say I was blessed with this because while my marriage was falling apart, I was so passionate and obsessed with learning about this new modality because it was releasing me from so much pain that I was carrying inside. It was giving me so much clarity and so much new perception in why things had happened in my life up until now. And I wasn't worried about what my ex husband was doing because he's a recovering addict. And at the time, he wasn't in recovery. So I really truly feel that was the beginning, I guess you could say, of me wanting to forge my own path and stepping into being an entrepreneur. And I am not married anymore. I've been a single mom actually for 10 years with no other partner in my life. And I've been fortunate enough to have this, whatever is inside of me just keeps growing and evolving, and more things keep getting revealed in my life, that I feel if I had any addiction, it would be that, like the addiction to just discovering my untapped potential, because there's more and more there. So it hasn't been easy. You ask me what it looks like, and it's always changing. I have to be open to that. It's always evolving and growing as I evolve and grow. And there's been challenges and adversities and difficulties along the way, but I wouldn't change it for the world.
That's amazing. What a huge gift. And I love talking about how much that passion energizes us to get through, the sleepless nights that are inevitable when you have a little one. And it's just amazing to me. So I would love to hear more about what did that look like on a day-to-day basis as you were trying to navigate raising your little one and being, a single mom and an entrepreneur. How did you navigate that? What did that look like, if you can remember any of that? Like, how did you do it?
Yeah, I'm so grateful to what I did before we decided to separate, because I was really in this place where I was truly resilient and strong in my foundation of this idea that everything was working out for me, no matter what it looked like. I just truly started to believe and buy into this concept that no matter what I was going through, that it was always working out for me, and it was for my highest good and for everybody's highest good, not just mine. And so I was really strong. I had built up this foundation of strength that there's no way I could go back. Like once you start to be really conscious and aware of everything that you've been through in life, it's really difficult to go back, and kind of painful. So how I navigated that was on a day-to-day basis. Truly, all the tools that I got to use from my journey, I got to use in being a mom. Like they're not separate, right? Every single aspect of my life, the way I do one thing is the way I do everything. So all of these tools that I learned about loving myself, about checking in and here, because it's really our inner narrative and our dialogue that gets the best of us most of the time. Like it
Yes.
all starts up there, right? And I had just learned to change my inner dialogue and inner narrative to a place where it was self-loving and self-empowering. And that really did have a ripple effect in how I raised my son. Now, I wasn't perfect, but can I share one like moment with you?
Yeah.
So this was when my son got a little bit older. He was, I'm terrible with timelines and ages,
That's right.
maybe 10. And so I do have this understanding that our conscious mind doesn't even start getting developed until we're around 8 years old. And so you could see it. He was really starting to think and use his thinking mind more and more. And he was going through a little bit of a phase where his thoughts were actually really bothering him.
Mm.
And so he would ask me for help. Like we just had such an open relationship where we could come and talk about anything together. He was a very sensitive child, but very able to have deep conversations. It was so cool to witness and watch. And so he was having issues with his thoughts, and I would give him all these tools. And one of the things I told him was to look at himself in the mirror and to speak, kind words into himself, empowering words. And he came out of the bathroom one day and he said, "Mom, this isn't working. What else do you got?" And
Mm.
just intuitively, I knew to take him into my porch where there's a full length mirror. And this is something that I've done with men and women clients and myself, where I just lead them through this mirror exercise. It's not scripted, it's all intuitively guided. And I had him say these certain phrases in the mirror while he was looking in his eyes. And I watched my son just break down and cry and release. And it was so interesting because in the moment, I was not only his mother and so humbled that I was witnessing his transformation, but also that I never dreamed in a million years that one of the tools that I use with my clients, I would be using with my son. And the cool thing was, there was no difference between him and a grown man working through this, because it all comes down to the little boy inside of them, this little inner child that doesn't feel like they're enough and just need love and attention. And he was just scared of his own thoughts and didn't know how to deal with them. So it's little things like that, Karaleigh. I have so many stories like that, that because of my spiritual journey and all my personal development and getting to this place, my son got to witness me doing these things. I didn't hide it from him. And it was just, I have no words really. It's just one of those moments that I call God moments or divine moments. They're just filled
Yes.
with love.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, this is so much just proof to this idea that when we show up as a mom and really step into our power and do the thing that lights us up, our kids need that example. Like, we tend to think of it as being selfish, right? We
Mm.
have this immediate reaction of like, oh no, it's so selfish of me to take myself away from my child and do something that's just for me. But when you do that thing, it's for everybody. When you better yourself, it is better for everyone around you, especially for your kids. Your kids get to better you. Your kids benefit from you being your best self. Your kids deserve to have that example of a mom who is as amazing as she always could have been. And you can only be that version of you if you step into that, if you allow that, if you stop shrinking down to the one who's always wrapped up in the stress and the strain of the I'm not good enough. Like, we have to move beyond that.
Yeah. I 100% agree. And I have had those moments, where I haven't felt good enough. And he's also seen those. But he also knows that I'm very self-aware. And we talk about things like this out loud. Now he's 15, and sometimes I hesitate saying this, but I'm just going to say it. To me, is one of the most profound young men who I get to witness completely shift and transform all of the time. It reminds me of that quote by Khalil Gibran, is that your children are not your children. They come through you, but belong not to you.
Oh, I love
And
it.
yeah, and it's such an incredible gift to be able to watch this being transform again and again and again and again. And I know I've had an influence in that, but I also know it's not just me, right? It's
Yeah.
also his guidance, his personal relationship with God and the universe, and even watching him discover that. It's so cool. And I've never forced anything on him. I definitely make suggestions, and challenge him and invite him into possibilities. But I always give him the freedom to explore and find out for himself. And being a single mom, actually, from him being a young age, I think has taught me even how to let go even more, because there was a time when I would go a whole week every second week without seeing him, and I would miss a whole week of his life.
Hmm.
And when I was experiencing that, I just kept reminding myself, wow, I was chosen for this role so I could learn how to let go even more. And now I get to be a full-time mom because his dad moved. And there's even that. Now I'm grateful that I get to be, that main influencer in his life. So I've had both worlds with him.
Wow. And the power of letting go, it's so difficult, isn't it? It's so contrary to what we think is going to help us and what we think we need. And we think that if we can just control everything ever, that,
Yeah.
life will be exactly the way we want it. And yet we learn that we actually control nothing. And that the more that we surrender to a higher plan, to God's idea,
Yeah.
that actually everything's going to be okay and it's going to be so much better than
Oh,
what we had ever planned.
and I have enough evidence of that. And I still have to remind myself sometimes,
Yeah.
especially when I'm going through certain challenges in my life. I have to remind myself, well, Amy, when it was God's will, didn't it turn out better than you
Yeah.
could have asked or imagined? Yes. Like I have testimonies upon testimonies of that. And yet I'm still human. So when I'm in those places of adversity, it's challenging to remind myself
Yes.
of that and to trust that.
Oh, so, so much. So I would love to talk about your art because I know that you are such a gifted artist. And I know that for me, I've seen how much creativity can just be so therapeutic. So tell us about your art. Tell us about how it's transformed you and how much it's meant to you in your life.
Yeah, art's been the biggest surprise actually for me because as I did this work, what I started to find is there was all this untapped potential, like I said, inside of me, all these gifts that I didn't even know were like laying dormant in there, just waiting for me to discover. It's like hidden treasures. And this is literal. One morning, the magnetic pull to start painting was so strong that I got out of my bed. I drove across the city to my friend Heather's house. She had a dollar store bag of paint supplies for me and said, Here, I'm not using them. Okay. I went home. I have no artistic background. None whatsoever. I'm a writer and an actor and a performer and a speaker. But when it came to like painting and drawing, the most I did in high school was like sketch off of something I was looking at. So to have this magnetic pull was like so weird but wonderful at the same time. And I just followed it. I learned to follow these magnetic pulls and callings because of this journey that I've been on. And so I started painting. And at first, my ego just wanted to paint a pretty tree. So I tried painting a pretty tree and it was terrible. It was awful. I'm like, I don't like this. It's not pretty at all. So I abandoned everything that I thought I should do when it comes to painting. And I just allowed myself to play. And I found spatulas and wine corks, and I was just putting paint on a canvas. And I was completely okay with whatever was going to happen. And it was so much fun. And what ended up happening was every time I would come back, because I work with acrylics mostly, now I've ventured into other avenues, but I would come back and I would start to see images like faces. I was like, that's cool. What would happen if I brought that to life? And I don't even know how to do that because I'm truly not an artist. And one thing led to the other. And I fell in love with the creative process of just simply not knowing what it was going to turn out like. And at the time, I ran my clinic out of my house, and my clients started offering money for my paintings. And it's just snowballed and evolved from there. I do custom soul paintings now where I'm just able to sit and I actually am in a meditative space and I can tap into like the blueprint of somebody's soul. And that becomes the energetic background, so to speak, that goes into a painting. And they go through the same process. They don't see the painting to the very end, but I capture all of the layers and then I put it into a story and a video. And when they get the painting, they get both. And that in and of itself has been a gift from God because I wasn't born going, I'm going to do these things that I call custom soap paintings one day, right? And the reaction that I get from people, it's always the same. Almost everybody cries. They can't believe how much it represents them because it's not a picture of them. It's a picture of their soul, which sometimes you can see images in it, but it really is the energy that's infused in it. And it's wild and mind-blowing. And then, Karaleigh, I had a dream. This was an actual dream. I was sleeping, that I was supposed to start painting people naked, like their actual naked bodies, to raise awareness for self-image issues, because I grew up not loving myself. I hated the body I was in. I thought I was my body. I thought I had to be this gorgeous model to be accepted by men, my dad, and society. And I was so far away from that in my own image. And within a week, I found 7 people that said yes to doing this. And I had no idea what I was doing. I just told them, I'm going to be painting you naked. I have a friend who's going to photograph you the whole entire time, still similar to how I paint canvases so they can capture all the layers. And then when I'm all done, you're going to look at yourself in a full length mirror and then get more photos taken at the end. That's all I knew. And I just trusted that if I had this dream and I was being guided and these women said yes, and I was supposed to be doing this, what happened was mind-blowing even for me, and profound. I can't even tell you. I was just intuitively guided to the colors to use, what body part to start on. And with my energy medicine background, what ended up happening was their deeply buried trauma and subconscious stories, their limitations, beliefs, and all the beauty came to the full surface on their naked canvas with this paint. And it told a story. And then they met themselves in the mirror and everybody cried, and they couldn't get over like what they were looking at and what they saw and how they saw themselves in this way. And I ended up doing a big gala at the end, where people got to come and see their pictures and everybody got to share their experience. And over a decade later, this is still part of my business, and it's so transformative. You have to experience it.
I'm so blown away. Like I'm sitting here like tearing up because I can just imagine. Because of course, especially as moms, because that's a huge portion of who we're talking to here. That is sort of the ideal of who we're talking to here. The transformation that we go through when we become mothers is a lot more than just emotional. It is so physical.
Yeah.
And I definitely suffered with body image issues before I became a mother. But after becoming a mother, it changes your whole body. It changes everything about you.
Mm-hmm.
And you are not the same in any way. And so to take this divine, creative, artistic, passionate work and use it to heal that genuinely traumatic experience, your body becomes something that is not your own as you go through pregnancy, and it becomes distorted. And I mean, for me and probably most of us, you get poked and prodded by doctors and you don't really want to, and you just sort of are forced to allow it, and it doesn't feel like you want to give permission, and you sort of are really not giving permission for these people to touch your body, and yet you have to. It's sort of, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then if you've ever had a C-section and they put you under, because I had an emergency C-section with my third, where they were just like, oh, nope, ketamine, here it comes. And I was out cold, and who knows what they, did while I was completely under, and the trauma that came from that. And just your body feels like it's not your own. And things happen to your body. And so the trauma that we experience as moms is very, very, very real. And I can just I can just feel the power of that paintbrush, appreciating every dimple
Every
of
scar.
every scar of the mother's form, of
Yes.
everything that we've been through, of every part that those kids touch over and over and over again. When you're ready to be done being touched and they're not done touching you, which is all of motherhood, right? When you're just like touched out and they're not, and you're their comfort and you're just done, and it doesn't matter because the only way to get them to stop screaming is to let them cling to you longer. Motherhood is such a physical sacrifice. It's so physically demanding. And so, what you offer in that, I mean, transformative is really the only word.
It's a complete rebirth. Everybody that has ever come into this space, men included, they've all said some version of that. I really love your passion and how you were speaking just now, and you really opened my eyes up more to motherhood being such a physical, enduring experience. And really, for me, that was my life story. I never felt at home in my body. I never felt safe. I never felt it was safe to be a woman. I never felt safe it was to feel sexy or sensual for such a long time. And I hope if people are listening to this and they're new moms or they're pregnant, that they take what resonates and leave the rest, because I don't ever want to project that birth cannot be a wonderful, beautiful experience, because I do know women who have had incredible experiences. I just happen to not be one of them. Um, but I also think that everything that we do experience is, again, for the greater good and greater benefit. And when I was
Yeah.
pregnant with my son, um, part of my physical issues that I was having was I had a chronic knee issue since I was in high school. And it would flare up and take like 3 months to heal at a time. And when I got pregnant with him, I was still teaching striptease aerobics, believe it or not. And my knee went out on me, and it was like that for a year and a half. So I had
Wow.
to learn to do everything on my left side. After he was born, I had to carry him on my left side. I could barely walk up and down stairs. But what happened with his birth experience was I actually had all of my childhood trauma triggered in that experience. I too had an emergency C-section. I was overbooked in the induction ward, and the labor and delivery ward was full, and they're not supposed to do that. So there was literally,
Mm.
I was just separated by curtains. I was induced 4 times. His heart rate was dropping so bad that they couldn't keep inducing me. I was strapped to a bed. I wasn't allowed to go walk
You were
around or have a bath.
strapped.
I was strapped to a bed. I also had an experience of OBGYN coming in, not mine. Um, my memory of it, it's crazy, but my memory of it is that like 10 interns came with her. I'm not quite sure that's fully true, but that's what it felt like. I think there was at least 3, maybe 4. And my ex-husband was there at the time. And whatever she did, I know this is a podcast, so I'll try and make it like PG, but whatever she did, I've never experienced this kind of pain where tears just came out of my eyes. Like that's how painful it was, whatever she was doing inside of me. And it triggered all of my sexual trauma. I felt completely invaded at the time with an audience. And when she was done, my husband at the time looked at her and was like, what were you doing? And her words were, I was trying to help you. I was like, okay, that's help. Meanwhile, Karaleigh, I have to say this. There was a girl who was maybe 22, separated by a curtain beside me, and she was quite far along in her pregnancy, I think 22 weeks or something like that. And she was losing her baby. And I always knew that
Oh,
God was giving me that experience to put mine into perspective, not to dismiss what I was going through,
yeah.
but I could hear everything.
Mm.
It's not like anything was private there, right? I could hear everything. So when my husband and I were praying, we said a prayer for her too. And it
And
was, yeah, go ahead.
I'm just gonna say it's like this is why we need art. This is why we need the music and the painting and the creativity so much
Yeah.
as moms is because it like I was saying is like creativity is therapeutic. Like this
Hmm.
is what we use to move this trauma. This is what we use to heal it
Yeah.
because we need it. We
Yeah.
just need it. And we need it. We just need it.
We do. And I think I won't go into my full story because there's so much to unpack in that birthing experience, but I'm grateful that it all happened. I call my son my hero because I knew that I needed to experience all of that re-triggering of my trauma to finally start healing it. It's wild. Like he's definitely a miracle. He's definitely a miracle and my hero. And I can't not create. I've been creating, I feel, since I came out of my mother's womb. Like I was anything that I could do to make up a dance in my living room or perform an air band or to be on a stage. I literally feel like I was born to be on a stage. All I did in high school was enter drama, plays. I took drama classes in college while I was in high school. I entered every public speaking competition ever. And I remember writing an essay to win a contest where I did win, and my two friends went with me. And we went to some conference, and I went to a Catholic school. So it was filled with adults and nuns. We were the only teenagers there. And the keynote speaker, I still remember her name. Her name was Dr. Eleanor Ford. Whatever she said, I don't remember what she was talking about, but I remember how I felt. Whatever she said inspired me so much that I asked my friends if I can talk to the MC and we can get up there and say thank you to her in some way. Will you do it with me? And they were on board. So I talked to the MC and I was like, she inspired us so much. Can we please go up and talk on the last day? And so we did. And I was the last one to speak. And all I remember is this image of her giving me a standing ovation and saying, you're going to be filling stages around the world. You're going to be the next Eleanor Ford. And I had nuns coming up to me. They said two things that have never left me in my whole life is you're the yeast in the dough and the cream always rises to the top. And I didn't know what that meant back then. Now I know what that means. So I feel like I've always followed that passion and inspiration no matter how it comes. And I think that's such an important message is our lives can truly be fulfilling when we learn to follow that inspiration and those intuitive nudges no matter what it is. And that's what True Colors has been. That's how painting started. And to be able to give this gift, to give people back themselves, to feeling safe in their body, to
It's
celebrate being who they are exactly as they are, that they don't have to hide anything. Because when you're laying there naked, I mean, there's really nothing else to hide. And all the spaces is divine love. That's all you feel is pure unconditional love in that space.
yeah, that's amazing. So as your journey's been incredible. Tell us about your latest and greatest, your podcast. I'm so excited for it. I want to shout it from the rooftops. Tell us about how you got the inspiration for it, why you chose the name for it, and what the name is, and tell us all about it.
Sure. I love that. So this last year, I've been going through quite a transition in my business. I've been feeling like I'm expanding, but not really clear on what that looks like. And so I hear audioly, I feel like the universe, God talk to me. And I've only had two things in the last year really prominent being like, this is what you need to do next, Amy. The first one was write the book that you want to read, which I am writing it. And the
Ooh.
second one was to start a speaking company. And when I heard that, it felt like so in my body and like something I was supposed to do. And then when I came out of that, I was like, I don't know what that looks like. How do I do that? And so I was just like letting it sort of linger there. And then I thought, well, I could start a podcast. I love talking. I love having these conversations. As soon as I said that out loud, the next day I found Kathy Heller. She was actually being interviewed on somebody else's podcast, and I fell in love with her story and who she was being. And then I didn't know she was doing it. It's Your Turn to Podcast. And I'm like, boom, that showed up in my lap. So this is what happens when we keep ourselves open to expansion and growth. These things just magically start to show up and synchronize
Doors
in our
all
life.
open.
Yeah. And so my podcast is called Winning the Divine Lottery. That is actually a group coaching program I did years ago in my business. And it was so much fun. And it really is based on this wonderful, delicious, magical idea that we actually get to create our lives as we go, co-create them, I should say, based on what we love, what lights us up, what we're passionate about, how we're meant to serve others. And it's all by really occupying states of consciousness, states of being. Like who we're being really creates our life, our attitude, how we show up in the world. And it's really fun. And Winning the Divine Lottery never left me. I actually wrote a book that I need to completely revise. So there's that. And I just knew my podcast was supposed to be called that. And it's so fun because I ask everybody what that means for them at the end. And I feel like winning the divine lottery isn't mine. It's for everybody. Like it's everybody's, because as I have every conversation with somebody, I hear what it means for them. And I'm just like, oh, that's so awesome. And that's so wonderful. So I'm lit up about podcasting right now. Like it had me at hello, like Jerry Maguire, you had me at hello. That's what podcasting is for me.
Oh, it's so amazing. And I'm so excited for you. So would you say that that's the thing that's lighting you up the most right now? Because I was going to ask you, like, what lights you up the most? And it sounds like that. What is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, it's definitely that. Even though I'm so detached from the outcome, I have no idea where it's going to lead or go. But again, it's like painting. Painting's taught me everything about life because it's taught me everything about me. And the creative process is start, keep going, consistency, show up, and who knows what the outcome will be. But I know it's going to be something so fun because I'm enjoying the journey.
Enjoying the journey is so important.
Yeah.
We're not here for some magical end moment, because then it would be like, wait, what's next? Because we're in it for the next. We're in it for the journey. We're in it for the process.
Yeah.
So tell me, as we come back to motherhood, have you found any struggles in balancing being a mom with starting your podcast and doing your art and all this? Like what's the biggest struggle? Which I know your son's 15 now, so he's a little bit older and he's independent, but what's the biggest struggle in pursuing this passion and being a mom?
Money. I'm just
Money.
going to say it because I think we hold so much shame around talking about our financial struggles.
Yes.
And I just want to break that. I think the more I talk about it, the more I actually welcome abundance and prosperity, which I believe in. And I know that I am at the heart of me. I also feel that what I'm going through is preparing me for everything that I've asked for. And I really want to talk about that right now. And I think it takes actually a lot of courage to say that when maybe I don't have a whole lot of money in my bank account right now. I
You'll
do.
say I feel that, and I
Yeah.
totally agree with you on, like, we are afraid to talk about that. We're afraid to be like, money's hard. Can we let's be more open about that. So yeah, let's have this discussion.
Yeah. But I love money. And I think that there's part of that. We're all instilled with this conditioning that if you love money, then that's greedy and that's selfish. And that I'm like, but I love my son and I love my life and I love my parents. So why can't I love money in the same way? Money is energy. So if I'm loving money, that love is going to come back to me. And everything that I use money for is going to be from that place of love. And I really truly feel like I know I'm going to do amazing things with money because I have in the past. And I really truly feel that money just radiates what we already are, what's already inside of us. So if I'm a compassionate, generous, fun-loving person and I love to see other people happy and surprise other people and support other people, guess what? I'm going to use my money for joyful things, for fulfilling things. So money it's such a hot topic, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's like I love money like I love water. Like I appreciate
Yeah.
that freedom. Like I appreciate that my body can function, right? Can we just like, can I just appreciate freedom from the stress? Can we
Mm-hmm.
appreciate that without it being like an all-consuming thing? Like we have such an abundance of like all these other things that we are appreciative. Like I appreciate that I have a roof over my head. I don't have to obsess over it. And yet we obsess over money all the time. Like, and if we can trust is such a hard one when it comes to money because we
Yeah.
have this drive to like force it. And it's like, wait, if we can just allow and trust and be like, no, there's enough. There's enough. It'll
Yeah.
be okay. And just be open to like receiving.
Yeah, I think it's all about receiving because on my vision board this year, I even put God is my infinite support or my infinite support and supply. Yes. And I mean, if you want to put something on your vision board, be careful what you put on your vision board because I really truly feel that the thing that we're calling in our life, we have to become the energetic match for it, right? So if we're not the energetic match for it, then the process of becoming can look really messy and feel
Yeah.
really, really painful at moments in our lives.
Because it's stretching. It literally is like
I,
stretching and
right?
growth. And that
Yeah,
growth is painful. And then you get to the end and you're like, this was really good for me, but it was hard.
exactly. But we become more fruitful and we become more of who we really are and less of the story of us, right? And we all
Mhm.
have money stories. It's crazy how many money stories we have. And all of our money stories are usually quite limited.
Yeah.
So why not step into this version of us that can ask and ask big?
Yes.
You know, you have
Yeah.
not because you ask not. Ask and you shall receive. But how many of
Mm-hmm.
us actually believe that? And I
Mm-hmm.
do believe that. And I think what's being developed in me this year is one word, and it's faith. Because
I
faith,
love
I
that.
truly believe, is a supernatural power that we are meant to develop over time. And the only way you can develop faith is by asking something and then keep having faith that it's going to show up in the right
Yes.
way, in the right time, in the right form. And I recently had a huge manifestation happen in my life around money that I actually can't really share yet.
That's
But
all
once
right.
it does happen, I will share it.
Oh,
So
I'm excited to
I'm,
hear about it.
yeah.
Well, and one thing I've been thinking about recently is like as I've been talking to women about like, what's your biggest struggle when it comes to pursuing your passion and being a mom? And this comes up over and over again is time. And I've been
Mm.
thinking about how much we have this scarcity mindset when it comes to time. And we talk about that all the time when it comes to money. And it's like, there's not enough money, there's not enough money, there's not enough money. I have this scarcity mindset. How do I fix my scarcity mindset with money? And it's like, you also need to fix your scarcity mindset when it comes to time. You have plenty of time. There's plenty of time. There's plenty of time. You need to convince yourself that you're not out of time. As a mom, that's always really hard because you're like, my kids are growing up. They're going to leave. I only have a little bit of time left with them. How do I cram everything that I know into their heads so that I can, I don't know, be the best mom ever and make sure that they're the best human? And it's like we have such a scarcity mindset when it comes to time as well. So I'm curious what you have to say about that.
I have so much time. Can give some people some of my time. No, I do understand what you're saying. I think the scarcity mindset is the kingpin though,
Yeah.
regardless of what we're talking about. Time for me, I tend to get anxious when I think about time to really fulfill my purpose and my dreams. It's
Mm.
more like the older I get, I feel like sometimes I'm running out of time.
Ah.
Yeah. And so I really have to check myself. And I really have to come back into this. No, if it hasn't happened yet, Amy, it's because it wasn't supposed to happen yet. And really, we all have the same amount of time in a day. It's just how do we use it and how are we prioritizing it? And most of us don't prioritize it to our values and what we
Yeah.
value the most and what lights us up the most.
Yes.
But when you do, I've played with this. When you prioritize your time to doing what lights you up the most, I'm way more productive. I get way more
Yes.
done in a day. But when I'm
Yes.
scattered and frantic and in scarcity mindset, guess what? I lose time.
Mm-hmm. And it's so hard to focus and to like your brain just like goes into scattered mode and you're like, what was I doing? And then all of a sudden you find yourself scrolling on social media and you're like, wait, what? This is a waste of time. I can't. And all of a sudden you're not being mindful of your time and you're like, it takes you 10 times longer to do the dishes because you're like, can't think straight because you are lacking the energy and the clarity that comes from doing what lights you up.
Yeah, but we're taught to be distracted from our soul.
Mm-hmm.
We have distractions coming at us in every angle, and it takes some self-discipline and self-awareness to be able to say, okay, is this really feeding my conviction and my values and what I truly want in my life, or is it distracting me from it?
Yes. This has been such a delicious conversation. I love talking to you. You're so much fun. Do you have any final like advice for moms as we wrap up?
I always think people need encouragement and love more than they need advice.
Yeah.
So I just want to say you're doing a better job than you probably are giving yourself credit for. And to know that whatever it is, whatever standard that you're holding of yourself as a mom, just make sure it's not perfection because perfection does not exist. Nobody was given this is how you do momming, this is how you do motherhood. Um, yeah,
The
just
handbook 101. Here you
yeah,
go.
exactly. You're doing a really good job. And if you start to really truly ask yourself what you really want out of life and give yourself permission to start giving yourself that in really small ways, again, your world will just be filled with so much goodness.
I love that. You're just spot on. I absolutely agree that we need fewer strategies and more confidence all the way around. We need to know our value, we need to know our worth. And I feel like that has been infused throughout this entire conversation. Like, know that you have won the divine lottery, know that you know, have so much worth. You are just, you're just so valuable. You're so freaking incredible just as you are. And I love that that is like your message and it's been consistent the whole time. So thank you so much for that because we all really need it.
Yeah, I love that. Can I leave you with a poem?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay. I had a couple marked for today, but since we're talking about motherhood and being a woman, just one second here. It's right here. Okay. I'll just ask you to take a nice big deep breath, and whoever is listening, and even close your eyes. I find sometimes when we have our eyes closed, we receive. This poem is called Holding Space. Dear girl with the 6-inch waist and 16-inch thighs, To the girl who tucks her skin in between her legs so nothing hangs out. To the mom whose children have climbed on her and she has screeched in pain when they accidentally put all of their weight on the extra trims of fat around the edges of her hips and thighs. To the girl that has one ankle bigger than the other and one calf that's fatter. To the woman that won't wear shorts in public because she doesn't want anyone to see what's happened to her legs since losing all that weight. Gravity has given her loose skin, and she feels ashamed that something so good that she's proud of accomplishing still keeps her hiding. To the woman with varicose veins that makes her feel older than you are. To the girl whose knees limit her from dancing. To the lady who feels trapped inside her body and wants to escape. To the girl who constantly is searching for an answer and deeply grieves in silence. Why doesn't my body match who I am on the inside? To the girl with the clusters of cellulite that she despises and wishes she could get rid of. To the girl with stretch marks that hasn't even had a child and think there's something wrong with her because she didn't earn them. To the girl that lost use of her legs and is paralyzed from the waist down. To the girl who had one or both of her legs amputated to save her life. To the girl who has wished she could have brand new legs and has felt guilty because she doesn't love the ones she has. And she knows it could be worse. I see you. I feel you. I love you. May we all rise together, stronger than we ever knew, using the strength of our legs that have carried us through. Let's learn to love them and accept them just as they are. You are worth it. You're amazing. You've come so far. Take one small step towards the truth in your heart. Let this be a brand new chapter, a new start. You were made for greatness, regardless of the body you're in. You are beautiful. You are free. Let your new life begin.
So my goal was to just like hit in there because I was gonna be like, just like crying. But I realized that I haven't asked you to share how we could find your podcast and find you. So I'm like, I wanna go back and put that in there. That was amazing. And that was exactly what we needed. And I'm thinking that I want to end there and slip this part back in earlier in the episode. Please tell us where we can find your podcast and where we can find you on social media.
Yeah, my website is amydawns with an S on the end.com. My podcast is on all your favorite listening platforms. It's called Winning the Divine Lottery. And please follow me on Instagram at amydawns1111. I really just want to add value with all of those spaces and platforms. And I hope you get to receive some of that. Thank you.